Girl skips concert to care for her sick mom. The celebrity shows up at her house. The winning numbers echoed from the tinny radio speaker, a jumble of digits that meant nothing to Maya as she wiped down the sticky diner countertop. It was the end of her shift, the air thick with the smell of stale coffee and fried onions. Her world had shrunk to this small radius of responsibility: school, this part-time job, and home. Especially home. Her mother, Elena, was on the couch, propped up by a mountain of pillows, recovering from a surgery that had taken more from her than just a week of work. It had taken her energy, her color, her easy laugh. Maya's own life was on pause, a quiet hum of worry beneath the surface of every action. Then the DJ's voice cut through the static, announcing the grand prize winner for the Kalin tickets. VIP passes. Meet and greet included. Maya froze, her rag hovering over a stubborn ketchup stain. She knew the number. She had entered the contest weeks ago, a small act of impossible hope, using the last 4 digits of her mother's birthday and the number of the apartment they had lived in before things got tight. Her number. They had called her number. A thrill, sharp and electric, shot through her, so potent it made her dizzy. Kalin. His posters were a patchwork quilt on her bedroom walls. His voice, a constant companion through her headphones, was the soundtrack to her homework, her chores, her lonely bus rides. It was more than just pop music to her. His lyrics spoke of finding light in gray places, of holding on when everything told you to let go. His first album had gotten her through the year her father left. His acoustic sessions had been a soft place for her to land when her mother first got the diagnosis. Kalin represented a kind of defiant authenticity in a world that felt increasingly fake. He was the dream she allowed herself when her reality was too much to bear. And now, she had won. She would see him. She would meet him. The thought was so immense, so brilliant, it blotted out everything else. She practically flew home, the official confirmation email glowing on her phone screen. The tickets were real. 2 of them. She burst through the door, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Mom! Mom, you are not going to believe this! Elena looked up from the couch, her face pale but her eyes lighting up at her daughter's joy. Maya explained it all in a breathless rush, waving her phone like a trophy. Her best friend, Chloe, was already texting in all caps, a string of screaming emojis filling the screen. It was decided Chloe would go with her. The concert was in 3 days. 3 days until the most incredible night of her life. For 2 days, that reality was a sunbeam in their quiet apartment. Maya picked out an outfit she didn't even know she owned, a simple black dress that made her feel older, more confident. She practiced what she would say. Your music saved me. Felt too dramatic. I'm your biggest fan. Felt too cliché. Maybe she would just smile and try not to faint. Then, the night before the concert, the sunbeam vanished. Her mother woke from a nap with a low-grade fever, a sharp pain in her side making her gasp. Maya's joy curdled into ice-cold fear. A call to the doctor's answering service resulted in a stern warning. Watch her closely. No stress. Keep her hydrated and resting. Any sign of the fever worsening, and she had to be brought to the emergency room immediately. The next 48 hours were critical. The concert. The realization hit Maya not like a wave, but like a silent, sinking stone. There was no choice. There was never a choice. She sat on the edge of her mother's makeshift bed on the couch, holding a cool cloth to her forehead. Elena drifted in and out of a restless sleep, murmuring apologies. Go, Mija. You have to go. I'll be fine. But Maya could see the faint sheen of sweat on her skin, the flicker of pain in her eyes even when they were closed. I'm not going anywhere, Mom, she whispered, her voice thick. She texted Chloe, the words feeling like tiny shards of glass under her thumbs. Can't go. Mom's not well. Chloe's replies were a flurry of sympathy and frantic suggestions. My mom can come stay. We can find a nurse. But Maya knew. Her mom didn't need a nurse. She needed her daughter. The 2 golden tickets sat on her nightstand, useless and mocking. A few hours later, Her phone buzzed again. It was Chloe. Check my latest post. I had to do something. Maya's stomach twisted. She opened the app and her breath caught in her throat. There it was. A photo Chloe must have screen grabbed from one of their video calls. It was a picture of the 2 VIP tickets lying on Maya's nightstand. Next to them, clearly visible, was her mother's bottle of prescription painkillers and a thermometer. The caption Chloe wrote was earnest and heartbreaking. My best friend Maya is the biggest Kaylin fan in the world. She won tickets to meet him tonight but gave them up to take care of her mom, who just had surgery. She's the most selfless person I know. At Kaylin Music, your fan club has the best people. Humiliation washed over Maya in a hot, prickly wave. It felt like a violation. A desperate, public plea. She felt exposed. Her private sacrifice turned into a spectacle for likes and comments. Take it down, she texted Chloe immediately. Please. This is so embarrassing. But it was too late. The post was already moving. It had a handful of likes, then dozens, then hundreds. People were sharing it. The night of the concert, Maya sat in the quiet dark of the living room, listening to the city sounds outside. She imagined the roar of the crowd, the thumping bass, the first chords of Kaylin's opening song. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, but she wiped it away fiercely. Her mom was sleeping peacefully now, her fever having broken an hour ago. This was where she was meant to be. The disappointment was a bitter pill, but the rightness of her choice was a small, steady warmth in her chest. She fell asleep in the armchair, Kaylin's oldest album playing softly from her phone. Miles away, in a sterile, white hotel suite, Kaylin collapsed onto a sofa. The roar of the crowd still echoed in his ears, but it felt distant, impersonal. Another city, another sold-out arena, another wave of adulation that felt a mile wide and an inch deep. He felt like a product. Packaged, marketed, and sold. His manager, Marcus, a man who vibrated with nervous energy and the scent of expensive cologne, was pacing the room, barking into his phone. The morning shows are confirmed. 7 a.m. car. Then the radio spot at 9. Photo shoot at 11. We can't be late. Kaylin tuned him out, pulling out his own phone. He did this sometimes, after a show. He would scroll through his tagged photos, bypassing the polished media posts and looking for the grainy, blurry, real ones. Faces in the crowd. People singing along in their cars. It was a way of reminding himself that behind the numbers and the sales figures, there were actual human beings. He scrolled past hundreds of pictures of himself on stage. Then he saw it. A picture that wasn't of him. It was a photo of 2 concert tickets. His concert tickets. Next to a bottle of pills and a thermometer. He stopped scrolling and read the caption. My best friend Maya gave them up to take care of her mom. Something in his chest, a part of him that had felt numb and callous, pricked with a strange, forgotten feeling. He looked at the picture again. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a plea for attention. It was just real. It was a quiet story of love and sacrifice, happening in the shadow of his loud, chaotic world. It reminded him of his own mother, before the fame, when they had lived in a tiny apartment, and she worked 2 jobs to pay for his first guitar lessons. He remembered the sacrifices she had made, small and large, all of them invisible to the rest of the world. Marcus, he said, his voice quiet but firm. Marcus paused his phone call, annoyed. What is it? We're on a tight schedule. Cancel the morning shows, Kaylin said, not looking up from his phone. Marcus laughed, a short, sharp bark. Funny. Very funny. The car is at 7. I'm not joking, Kaylin said, finally meeting his gaze. Cancel them. And the radio spot. Find out who won the VIP contest from tonight's show. The one from the radio station. I need an address. Marcus's face went through 3 different shades of panic. Are you insane? That's millions of dollars in free press. We can't just cancel. For what? For some fan? For something real, Kaylin said softly. Find me the address. The next morning, Maya was in the kitchen, carefully measuring tea leaves into a pot. Her mom was awake and sitting up on the couch. Her color returned, the pain subsided. The apartment was filled with soft morning light and a sense of profound relief. The disappointment of the concert felt like a distant memory, a small price for this peace. Then, there was a knock on the door. A firm, solid knock. She frowned, wiping her hands on her jeans. Maybe it was a delivery for a neighbor. She opened the door, a polite, "Can I help you?" already on her lips. The words died in her throat. Standing on her worn-out welcome mat was Kalen. Not a poster. Not a picture on a screen. Him. In the flesh. He was wearing a simple gray hoodie and jeans, his famous eyes looking tired but kind. He looked smaller in person, more human. Maya's brain simply refused to process the information. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. It was as if all the air had been vacuumed from the hallway. "Maya?" he asked, his voice exactly like it was on his records, only quieter. She could only nod, her entire body trembling. "I saw your friend's post," he said, a small, gentle smile playing on his lips. "My manager was furious, by the way." He gestured vaguely behind him, where a sleek black car was parked at the curb, a man in a suit staring daggers from the driver's seat. I hope this is okay," Kalen continued, seeming a little nervous himself. What you did for your mom, that's the good stuff. That's the stuff my songs are supposed to be about." Maya finally found her voice, though it was just a squeak. My mom is feeling much better." "I'm glad to hear that," he said, his gaze shifting past her into the small apartment. He saw Elena on the couch, her eyes wide with utter disbelief. He gave her a small wave. "I cancelled my interviews this morning," he said, turning back to Maya. "And I brought this." From behind his back, he produced a worn acoustic guitar case. Maya's heart stopped, then restarted at triple speed. "I heard you sing a little," he said, though Maya had no idea how he could have heard that. Maybe Chloe had embellished her post. "I was wondering if you and I could play a song for your mom." This was the offer. Not a record deal. Not a check. A moment. An impossible, terrifying, beautiful moment. Her first instinct was to slam the door and hide under her bed for a week. The fear was a physical thing, closing her throat, making her hands clammy. Her sing? With him? In front of him? Her voice was for the shower, for humming along in her room. It wasn't for this. "I can't," she whispered, the words tumbling out. "No. I'm not good enough. My guitar is old." She was resisting, pulling back from the precipice of the most incredible thing that had ever happened to her. From the couch, her mother's voice came, weak but clear. "For me, Mija," Elena said, a tearful smile on her face. "Please." That was it. That was the only permission she needed. Her mother's smile cut through the fog of her fear. Maya took a deep, shuddering breath and nodded. She stepped back, holding the door open. Kalen walked into her living room, and it felt like a scene from a strange and wonderful dream. He set his guitar case down and looked at the old, beat-up acoustic guitar resting in the corner of the room. "Is that yours?" he asked. Maya nodded, embarrassed by its chipped wood and worn frets. "May I?" She nodded again, speechless. He picked it up with a practiced ease, his fingers finding the strings. He strummed a simple chord. The guitar was out of tune, but he didn't seem to mind. He deftly twisted the tuning pegs, his ear tilted, until the chord rang out pure and true. "What should we play?" he asked, looking at her. "Gray Sky Morning," she whispered instantly. It was his oldest, most vulnerable song. The one that had saved her. He smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Good choice. He started to play the simple, melodic intro. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the moment of truth. She took a breath, looked at her mom, and began to sing. Woke up to another gray sky morning. Her voice was shaky at first, a fragile, reedy thing. But then Kalen joined in, his harmony a warm, solid foundation beneath her melody. He wasn't overpowering her. He was lifting her up. Something inside her unlocked. She sang the second verse with a strength she didn't know she possessed. Her voice, clear and true, filled the small living room. It wasn't the voice of a fan anymore. It was the voice of an artist. She poured all the worry of the past few days, all the lonely nights, all the quiet hope into the notes. Kalen stopped singing harmony and just played, listening. He watched her, and the look on his face was not one of pity or condescension. It was one of pure, unadulterated respect. It was validation. He saw her. The song ended, the final chord hanging in the air. The only sound in the room was the soft, happy sobbing of Elena from the couch. Maya stood, trembling, tears in her own eyes. "You have a gift," Kalen said, his voice low and full of awe. "A real gift." He gently placed her guitar back in its stand. He then pulled a pen from his pocket and scribbled on a napkin from the coffee table. He handed it to her. It was his personal phone number. "This isn't a record deal," he said, his eyes serious. "That world can wait. This is for you. I know a vocal coach, one of the best. She works with people she believes in, not just people with contracts. I want you to work with her. No strings attached. When you and your mom are ready, and when you feel ready, I want you to call this number. Talent like yours deserves a chance to grow on its own terms." He wasn't offering her a place in his world. He was giving her a key to build her own. He said a quiet goodbye to her and her mother, and then he was gone, slipping out the door as quietly as he had arrived. The black car pulled away from the curb and disappeared down the street. The inauthentic, frantic world of schedules and press junkets had been held at bay, defeated by one quiet, authentic moment. Maya stood in the middle of her living room, the napkin clutched in her hand. The air felt different. The light felt warmer. She looked at her mother, who was beaming through her tears. She looked at her old, beat-up guitar, which now seemed to glow with a new kind of magic. She hadn't met a superstar. She had met a person. And in the process, she had finally, truly, found her own voice. She was no longer just a fan living in the shadow of her idol's light. She was Maya. A girl who loved her mother. A girl who had a gift. And for the first time, she stood on the precipice not of a fleeting dream, but of her own, real, and wonderfully authentic new beginning.